stuff that's coming out at the moment. It's like, asymmetries aren't inherently bad. It's like, of course asymmetries aren't inherently bad. Like everyone is going to have slight asymmetries here and there, but it's the question is like, is that asymmetry causing pain? Is it the result of an injury? Is it leading to overcompensation elsewhere that could lead to future injury risk? Is it being made worse by your training?
Yeah.
Is it worsening your performance? If any of those questions,
and I think
you have to answer yes, then like you have to work on that asymmetry, because if you don't work on that asymmetry, it's going to lead to a problem.
Yeah. You do sound way more sexy through headphones.
I feel that way. I feel like everyone should listen to me through headphones from this point forward.
Yeah. No one should listen to you in person.
Exactly.
Just have like a little tape recorder that you're just like always doing voice notes into, and your clients are just connected up to like a slightly like time deferred version of that going through their heads.
It's like those hearing aids you can buy for lectures. You've seen those where you literally just have like, what's your volume like? Can you just check?
I don't know.
No, I'm just thinking if you speak into the mic for me just quickly.
Yo.
Yeah, okay, cool. Right, that's fine.
I don't know.
Cool. No, those microphones, those hearing aids that you get for lectures that you can just kind of sit and you've got like something plugged into, and it just means that the person speaking at the front is played directly into your ears, and it just makes everything better.
Oh yeah.
You should just get some of those for the gym, because the gym is loud as well. Like I swear to God, like half the time I can't hear my clients anyway.
Yeah. I mean, even better, do what I do, or what I did for lectures, which is just record everything, because I'm not really listening when people are talking anyway.
Ever.
There's like another thing just going on laterally, and I'm like, I can hear what you're saying and I'm kind of processing it, but I know that when you get to the end of the sentence, I'm going to be like, what?
It's the you've seen that meme of I was just doing it then, I'm pretty sure, but have you seen that meme of the guy talking about the fact that it feels like there are 6 hamster wheels going around in his head at every given moment in time, and they're all just crashing into each other. Yeah. And like he's just trying to keep them all on track and in order, and it's like that's I get that feeling.
Yeah. Im gets really annoyed with me because she'll be talking to me and I'll be listening, but I'll be looking at something over there. Listening to something over there, and she's like, and I'm like, babe, and she's like, what did I just say? And it really infuriates her when I'm able to like just repeat it back to her straight away.
I think it's one of those, like I'm quite a visual person, so like if someone's describing something to me, I will regularly be trying to imagine what they're saying. So like I will look off past them, and then they'll be looking over their shoulder like, what's going on? But
It's the little show, the little slideshow in the brain to interpret what's going on.
It's the wild thing, like, you know, some people can't actually imagine things. Like, can't imagine.
I find that so wild.
Like, it's like the whole thing around like people not being able to visualize what their children look like.
Say what?
So like there was this, I can't remember what podcast it was on, but it was this like, it was just talking about the fact that some people don't have that capacity in their brain to kind of create an image in their brain. So there are people who, unless their child is with them, like if their child's with them, they know exactly who their child is, obviously. They can hear their child, but like if they're trying to imagine their child, they can't imagine the face of their child.
That's so wild.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Yeah, I can't imagine that. That's not the opening one.
That's not the opening one. Good. Because yeah. Do you want to go for the opening one?
Did you know that milk is the fastest liquid on Earth?
I did not.
Even before you see it, it's pasteurized.
Great. Nice. Nutritional. Lovely. Great work. Way to bring something to the show.
That was the wrong one.
I'm still not going to press that and like actually download that track, so it's going to be useless.
This is just going to be cut out, isn't it?
No, I'll keep your pasteurized joke in there. It was great.
Okay.
Really good. What about the people that don't like pasteurized milk? All of those people that are like,
people that like it raw.
Milk. Yeah, people that love raw milk. Dairy me. Raw milk.
Dairy me.
Oh.
Oh, I'm on fire today. I love it.
I am so pleased for you that you're finding that entertaining. Right, hello team. Welcome to the Performance Proposition. I am Zab.
And I'm Matt.
And today we're going to talk a little bit about barefoot shoes. So, what they are, why they're useful or not.
And we are not sponsored by Vivo.
Although, if they want to sponsor me,
exactly,
we are
listening.
Yeah. I'm very amenable.
Yeah, I will definitely take your money and free shoes. Yeah,
nice. Good to. I mean, we can't really give them anything in response. If they see this, then in all fairness, by the time they've seen it, it suggests we might actually be big enough that they might want to sponsor us. True. I doubt they're one of our 26 views.
Do you reckon after that I have to select the does your podcast contain promotional content and put yes?
No, I think you're okay because you're currently not being paid. If you suddenly become paid before we put it out, then we might have to do that.
Nice.
Maybe.
It's always quite sad when I'm like, does your podcast contain explicit language? And I'm like, I can't remember, but I don't back myself not to have sworn.
I mean, you're going to have sworn.
Yes.
At some point you will swear. We could just get it out of the way really early and just swear very vocally.
Fuck.
Yeah. Get it out of your system.
And then it's
get all of that rage about the world.
Yeah. Do you have any promotion? Does it have any promotional content? And I'm like, sadly, no.
I mean, you're kind of promoting yourself.
Yeah, but I'm not paying myself.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
So barefoot shoes. Why have they become a thing?
Well, I don't. To be honest with you, I'll be honest with you. I've never actually looked into the research.
You know the Vibram Five Fingers, the like kind of original shoes that I have 2 pairs of out in the out in the hallway. They were originally designed as kind of boat shoes, sailing shoes. Yeah, and then just got repurposed. But
I think the idea is, I mean, a lot of our shoes we know are a little bit too narrow. They kind of pull your toes in, they pull your feet into odd shapes. You know, it's become more of a fashion footwear rather than function footwear.
Yeah.
And even in sport, I suppose, like the true function one, you know, like cleats when you're playing American football or running. We
can get into that later.
But track shoes and things like that, like a lot of the performance shoes, I mean, even weightlifting shoes, all historically are very narrow for like extra tightness, extra support, right? They're all very stiff. And I think people have sort of realized across the years that maybe we need a bit more space so that we can actually move our feet. They don't get squashed.
Yeah.
And there's a suggestion. I mean, I'll leave it up to you because I'm assuming you've done a bit more research into this than me. Maybe not. But it's possibly causing dysfunction in the way that the foot works. And because the foot's what connects us to the ground, if there's dysfunction at that point, it can create dysfunction up the chain.
Yeah. So when we think about the foot and you think about how the human foot changes over time, like if you look at a baby's foot, if you look at how that changes the second they start wearing shoes, the lack of function that foot then develops is insane. Like the lack of mobility, the increased restriction, the increased tightness, all of these things that realistically, if it was happening in any other part of the body, you'd be like, we should probably do something about that, right? Like if you were wearing something that supported and stabilized your shoulder in a position that meant your shoulder couldn't move to the point that over time you lost the ability to move your shoulder, you'd probably be somewhat concerned about that and you would try to fix it. So the fact that we don't necessarily do that with our feet is, bothersome. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a word. So like from a performance basis, if we know there are a series of muscles in the foot, we know the foot's capable of providing us with a lot of proprioceptive feedback from the floor. We know that like our foot should be capable of stabilizing us in multiple planes, should be able to stabilize us laterally, we should be able to separate our toes, we should be able to grip things with our feet, we should be able to do all of these things, and we've suddenly lost all of that function. We probably want to try and do something to correct for that. And barefoot shoes provide us with the capacity to rebuild some of that function because of the fact by wearing barefoot shoes, you put yourself in a position where your foot has to react to the floor, has to provide you with the support that was previously provided by the shoe.
Yeah.
And as a result, your foot muscles get stronger, your mobility gets better, your stability gets better, the feedback from the floor gets better. So all of those things can kind of improve.
Yeah. Because I mean, to take like a really basic example, you think about wearing gloves on your hands and how much just covering the skin on the hands and adding like a squashy layer reduces your dexterity in tasks to such a degree. And you still have use of your fingers, you still have like movement, but it reduces the dexterity just from that. And obviously feet, we need shoes because there are things on the floor that we'd rather not step on.
We've created an environment that's not necessarily great for going around barefooted. Yeah.
So like, you know, the hands obviously don't need to be covered in the same way, but if you put like something similar to a shoe on your hand and tried to do a handstand, you'd probably just keep falling over because you wouldn't be able to use it.
I don't know, I can imagine you could put something on your hand that would make it easier for you to balance. In the same way as like a shoe is like the way shoes are designed takes away some of the need for function of your foot, right? Because of the fact a shoe provides you with cushioning, so your foot doesn't have to then adapt to and react as much because of the fact the cushioning is already provided by the shoe. Yeah. Your shoe can provide you with stability, so your foot doesn't have to stabilize you. So in the same way, you could do something with it, like you could strap some massive paddles to your hand that then suddenly make it a lot easier for you to have a bigger base of support when you're trying to do a handstand. But then that would mean that you're not developing the strength in your hand, you're not developing the proprioceptive feedback in your hand. So if you then went into a handstand without those add-ons, you wouldn't be able to balance. So from a performance perspective, from an idea of like, okay, is the foot losing function because of the way that we've built modern shoes? Like you can say with a pretty good degree of certainty that it is. Yeah. You see a lot of people online basically talking. Like I see Angus Bradley putting posts out about it all the time, basically looking at athletes' feet and like showing pictures of like LeBron's feet all kind of tucked up over themselves, and like sprinters' feet moving at all sorts of weird angles as they're running, like showcasing that maybe at the top end of performance the foot doesn't move with the range that is promoted in a Vivo Barefoot advert, for example. What are your thoughts on that? Like, do we think that's...
I mean, it always annoys me when people go, oh, but look at these sports people, that they're like this, and it's like, well, I mean, firstly, we don't know that if they had like had better shoes, whether or not they would have been better. That's the first point. So like, yes, they're wearing very specialized shoes for their sport that helps them perform their sport, but we don't know if those shoes have been modified, whether or not there'd be better performance. I mean, take weightlifting, for example, the fact that there is now a barefoot weightlifting shoe. Yeah. Like, we can now maybe start to see whether or not that has a massive impact on it. But I mean, that's the first point. The second point is, like, some shoes, like you say, are needed to enhance performance, and therefore, when you're doing your sport, you need that protection. Like basketball shoes provide, you know, extra stiffness in the ankle, and they're quicker to move off because your feet are a little bit smaller and more, you know, put into those
I was
positions.
kind of more going down the route of like, you see people kind of pointing out, so it's kind of the same as like people pointing out that certain athletes are kyphotic and saying, oh, it's okay to be kyphotic, or people pointing out that knee valgus happens within the world of sport, and therefore like it's important, like knee valgus is fine, when you could probably make the argument that neither of those two things is particularly good, and we should try to reduce the degree to which we become kyphotic or degree to which we express knee valgus within sporting settings. Yeah. And like similarly, when it comes to like foot position within a sport, I think the idea of like occasionally your foot is going to be in a compromised position, occasionally your foot isn't going to, you know, look the way that a Vivo Barefoot ambassador would want to say that your foot should look. Yeah. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't strive for the ability to reach those positions. Yeah. Like in the same way as like it's fine to be kyphotic. It's fine to enter into a kyphotic posture, so shoulders rounded. But it's not like if you're stuck in that kyphotic posture, that is a bad thing.
Yeah. Well, I think the big point is what's good for sport isn't always good for life. Yep. Like a lot of athletes who have competed have a lot of problems later in life because of the positions they put themselves in. So like using that, it's a bit like, I can't remember what we were talking about the other day, but when we were saying like, you know, people using elite athletes as a thing to be like, hey, look, these guys do it, so you shouldn't worry about doing it. And it's like, yeah, but these guys are putting their bodies on the line to achieve greatness in this one thing, this very specific thing.
Yeah.
Like, we're probably never going to achieve that greatness in that specific thing. So like, the reason they're putting their body through that and the reason they're expressing that in their sport is to be better at that sport. Like, I might play that sport, but I also then have to go and do X, Y, Z, work in my job, do whatever.
Yeah.
And therefore being in those positions and training those positions and ending up with like, you know, dysfunctions that allow you to be good at, say, football, you know, might then actually be dysfunctional in life. Because what you look at sprinters are some of the most kyphotic people, not kyphotic, what's the word I'm looking for here? Anterior tilted people,
lordotic.
Right? The posterior, lordotic. They're some of the most lordotic people that you see, right? So many people that are really, really fast are super lordotic, right? Because that's kind of the position that you want to be in to keep your torso upright, stabilized. I mean, I'm not saying it's a hard and fast rule, but a lot of them are.
Well, it's an overdevelopment of certain muscle groups, right? Yeah. So you are going to end up with quite tight hip flexors and quite strong hip flexors because of the fact you're constantly driving that knee forwards. You are going to end up in a position where your erectors and but
that doesn't mean that Dan at the office wants to be super lordotic.
Yeah, it's also the difference. It's also the difference between, like, again, it's that whole thing of most sprinters are quite lordotic, but at the same time they can move out of that position. They're not stuck in that position. They can control their body. So it's that tends to be the problem, and is seemingly the problem when we look at like kind of all the stuff associated with posture and pain and injury risk, right? If you like, just because someone has bad posture, most modern research would say that bad posture isn't the root cause of injury, but stiffness is the root cause of injury. So if you then take that and you express that and you move that down again to the foot, it's like, okay, right, so this person, like, these athletes are stuck in this position where their foot is completely folded over itself, but then they're also capable of moving out of that position. They have control. If they have control over that foot, it's going to reduce injury risk. Yeah. Like if you're kind of stuck because of the fact you've worn terrible shoes for years that have pressed your toes together, and as a result your foot is misshapen, but now you can't control your toes, you have no dexterity in your feet, that's probably going to present an injury risk down the line, because all of a sudden other muscle groups have to compensate. So like, I remember like one of the physios that I've worked with in the past, a guy called Chris Kay from Bristol Physiotherapy Clinic, talking about the Andrew Murray hip injury and basically relating it all the way back to his ankle injuries and the fact that he constantly wears ankle strapping. And it's because of the fact he's constantly wearing ankle strapping, that's then leading to his foot not being able to react to any kind of lateral forces. So all of a sudden, those lateral forces, because the knee doesn't move laterally, are only being dealt with by the muscles at the hip. And if the muscles of the hip are being overdeveloped, that's going to create tension, that's going to create issues, there's going to be more grinding, there's going to be more inflammation, and as a result, that's going to lead to degradation over time. Yeah.
Well, I mean, different thing entirely, but my wrist.
Yeah, your wrist and shoulder.
The 2 years, and like, I can track this shoulder back to a suspected labral tear in 2013 when I was at Scotland, and the physio was like, yeah, it's a bit painful for a while, just, chill with it, don't worry too much. I then did it again in like 2016. I did it again in 2019.
Yeah.
And then ever since the first time, it's always been a little bit pulled forward. The lat and the pec have always like held a little bit more tightness to that side. And it just means that like on bad days, I lose like half an inch of range. And that's the risk. That's the risk that then takes the battering.
Yeah.
Because one bit doesn't function properly, and then down we go.
And it's that whole thing of, like, I love the argument around asymmetries, like the stuff that's coming out at the moment. It's like, asymmetries aren't inherently bad. It's like, of course asymmetries aren't inherently bad. Like, everyone is going to have slight asymmetries here and there. But it's the question is, like, is that asymmetry causing pain? Is it the result of an injury? is it leading to overcompensation elsewhere that could lead to future injury risk? Is it being made worse by your training?
Yeah.
Is it worsening your performance? If any of those questions,
yeah, and I think
you have to answer yes, then like you have to work on that asymmetry, because if you don't work on that asymmetry, it's going to lead to a problem.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, I think the third point that you said there, i.e., is that asymmetry leading to compensations elsewhere that may in the future cause injury risk, is one of the big things that people like forget with the gym, is that we're not talking like next week or the week after that.
Yeah.
Or the next year, maybe. Sometimes it's like 3 years of doing something. It's like the whole argument. Like, I mean, I know we had the episode with Sam the other week where we were like, moving badly is fine.
Yeah.
And to an extent it is. But what people don't realize is the time delay on the way that you perform exercises in the gym and the total volume that you put through those things.
Yeah.
It's very much like a delayed process.
Yeah. It's the whole thing of load management. Like, everyone talks about load management, but if you're not aware of where that load is being directed, if a certain muscle group is therefore being overloaded because others are being underloaded, you're going to end up with some form of repetitive strain injury if you continue to like expose yourself to ridiculously high levels of load in that area.
Yeah.
And it's just being able to understand that, being able to grasp that, being able to go, okay, right, well, I'm aware that in a year's time, this is actually going to lead to something. I may as well tackle it now. Probably isn't going to take that much work. Everyone kind of goes on about, oh, well, you're doing 15 minutes of this at the start of it. It's like, you do 15 minutes of warm-up stuff anyway, regardless of whether or not you're doing it as build-up sets to your work weight, or you're doing it as some form of plyometric-y stuff, or some like, you're going to do 15 minutes. See it as your accessory work. Maybe add it as your accessory work at the end of the session if you want to build it. If you want to have it there, add it into your rest periods if you just want to try and get some work in a way that's a bit more efficient. There's so many ways you can squeeze in the work without it suddenly adding 15 minutes to each of your sessions. Yeah,
and one of those ways is wearing barefoot shoes.
Barefoot shoes.
Make your accessory work or your imbalance development just every
part
day.
Of your day-to-day life.
And I think that's where the real value of them come. Like I've got a client, Kat.
Yeah.
Recently started wearing barefoot shoes. Mm-hmm. She's got like some of the worst like ankles that I've seen. Like, as in, no matter what we do.
Kat, your ankles are great. Do not let Matt put you down.
But no, your ankles are great. They're not weird ankles. They're just very, very stiff.
Yeah.
And no matter like how much we manipulate them, no matter how much we move them, like I cannot get her to have significantly more dorsiflexion. Mm-hmm. Right? And she started wearing barefoot shoes and things started to move in the right direction. Now, granted, she then went and started running, and Kat being Kat just went and got a bit of plantar fasciitis off the back of that, which probably comes from jumping straight into the barefoot shoes as well when they're not ready for it.
Did she go running in the barefoots?
I don't think she went running in the barefoots.
Okay.
I think she went like normal shoes, barefoots.
Yeah.
And just started wearing barefoots every day.
Yeah.
And then also did the running. But I mean, either way, you start wearing those, you can start, your feet have space to spread out.
Yeah.
Another interesting thing as well, athlete's foot. Barefoot shoes, far less likely to get things like athlete's foot because you actually have some gapping between your toes and they're not squeezed together and all that sweat and all that shit's being held in there. You can actually get airflow through there. And so like just from a foot hygiene perspective, it's better. And I say that from experience. Like, I've had athlete's foot before because I am an athlete.
On camera.
I'm an athlete. So, but basically like when I was much younger, so like when I was like 16, like I played so much football and so I just wore football boots all the time.
Yeah.
And, I probably had terrible shoes as well. So, like, my feet were just constantly like that.
Nice. Plastic leather football boots as well. Just
delightful.
Yeah.
And so, it was something I struggled with for a really long time. Like, it just kept coming back. I treated it, kept coming back. And then when I started wearing barefoot shoes, I just got rid of it. And I'm not saying that was the thing, but
There we go. It's an unmarketed benefit of barefoot shoes. No one's actually thought about talking about that just yet.
Yeah.
I mean, so going back to the whole living in barefoot shoes, like I'm a big believer in that. I think like too many people think about barefoot shoes as something they should do for their training, and something that's going to get more out of their training. And if your goal is to improve mobility, foot health with your training, then wearing barefoot shoes in your training sessions probably is going to help with that. But you have to accept that's then going to take away from other things, right? So if you're putting more strain through your feet, it's probably going to limit how far you can run, how fast you can run, how high you can jump, how much you can lift, all of those things, because of the fact you're putting additional strain through an area rather than being assisted. It'd be like when we taking wrist straps off when you're doing deadlifts. The other side of it, so like the whole thing around altitude training, and like before we used to go, okay, right, well, people should do altitude training because it makes the exercise session harder, and as a result, people improve their cardiovascular capacity by working at altitude. And then more and more studies were done into altitude training, and they realized actually training at altitude reduces total training load capacity. So then as a result, people are actually getting less fit by training at altitude because they can't push themselves as hard in their sessions. So they started saying, okay, well, instead of doing that, let's live at altitude so we get the benefit of exposing ourselves to an environment that makes it more challenging for us to breathe, more challenging for us to take in oxygen, more challenging for our cardiovascular system to deliver that oxygen to our body. But then when we train, let's train at sea level. So you just see people like living in Mexico City and then like driving down and training at low altitude so they could still get the most out of each of their training sessions. Yeah. And that's kind of like how I see the barefoot shoes thing, right? Like, don't train in barefoot shoes if it's going to limit your training session. Yeah. Because you could live in barefoot shoes, walk around in barefoot shoes, get the benefit of barefoot shoes and moving in barefoot shoes on a day-to-day basis, and then still get the most out of your training session by wearing the appropriate footwear for that session.
Yeah. Only problem with that, barefoot shoes are ugly as fuck.
Yeah, but this is the reason you're not meant to say that, because if we can convince everyone else to wear barefoot shoes, we don't have to feel as self-conscious about our feet.
I mean, I just think, Vivo, if you're listening, if you actually put some time and effort into making them look nicer, more people would wear them.
They did bring out a new pair that don't look quite so terrible. I think the thing is, I think the weird thing about barefoot shoes is the size of the toe box. You're just not used to seeing a shoe that's actually foot shaped. Like if you like look at any fashion shoe, it's always designed with like a slightly pointy toe, and your middle toe is like about an inch further forward than your big toe.
I mean, there is also the, bright single colorways that
I don't know what you're about. I love my teal Vio barefoots.
There's not a lot they go with. They go
really well with my teal jersey, my teal t-shirts, my teal jumpers, my teal shorts.
Not everyone's business color is teal.
Yeah, okay, you got me on that one. Like, that's fair enough.
If we just had some neutral coloured shoes,
I mean, they've got some white ones, they've got some black ones, they've got some sand ones, because
sand ones, yeah. Well, the thing is, like sand would. I mean, let's just have like those, but also maybe just like a little bit of effort into like the design of them. Okay. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I love the fact that you and I are talking about fashion right now.
Hey, what are you trying to say?
I don't know, man. Like, I mean, I've seen your gym outfits.
I mean, my gym outfits are not. Yeah, no, it's not for fashion. The gym is not for fashion. The gym is for function.
I mean, it's the only place I hang out. It's the only place I wear any clothes. So
that's fair.
My entire wardrobe is sportswear or suits.
Yeah. But I mean, I'd love to see a pair of like Nike Janowskis with just a bigger toe box.
Yeah.
Just collaborate a little bit on it and just be like, let's just start. Let's ease people in, right? Let's just ease people in.
A Nike Janowski with the toe box that is actually like square across the top, because that's what would actually end up like happening if you like made them barefoot.
I mean, I think people would be more receptive.
I think people would be receptive to that. I think the whole thing around Janowskis and other skate shoes, they need to be designed. Like you were making the point about the fact that, in the same way as like kind of climbing shoes give you the capacity to put greater power down through your toe by squeezing your toes and crunching your toes up. Yeah. Like sprint shoes do the same. Skate shoes do the same. Like you need to have that shape. And there's certain sports where there's a performance element, right? Like you brought it up earlier in terms of like shoes for sport. I remember going on a forum where someone was basically desperately trying to find barefoot shoes for their child to play basketball in. And you're like, you're going to get so much more benefit by training, like even doing some plyometrics barefoot. I don't have an issue with, but like when it comes to the actual sport, if a piece of footwear can give you a slight advantage because of the fact it is designed to allow you to jump higher, cushion the impact of that, like pivot better, don't take that away and try and transition towards a just because of the fact you want to get a barefoot shoe for yourself for that particular sporting endeavor. Like it's not going to be better in every single circumstance.
No, and like you say, just get barefoot shoes for your child to wear every day, and then put the basketball shoes on to play basketball. It's like most of the time I wouldn't call them barefoot shoes, but I wear a lot of Reeboks because the Reeboks just naturally have a wider toe box, and like I've got really fat short feet, and so Reeboks are the most comfortable shoes for me because everything else is like exactly to match my hands. Really fat and short, love it. To match with myself. Stocky feet. So I try and wear barefoot shoes in those a lot because they're more comfortable day to day. And then when I train, I still wear my normal Olympic lifters because, like you say, they squeeze the toes in. They like have more stability. They allow you to put more force into the ground.
Yeah.
And they work better for that performance. And then when I've done my Olympic lifts, I take my lifters off and I put my shoes back on. And I continue doing the rest of my session that is not going to be inhibited by the footwear that I wear with my Reeboks or my barefoots.
Yeah.
And like that's just how you do it. And it's like, take your shoes off or in barefoots for plyometrics because you get more connection with the ground, you get that better ground contact. And then when you're going in to your sprints, if you're a sprinter, you put your running spikes on. When you go onto the pitch as a footballer, you put your football boots on.
I also think do your top sets in the footwear that's appropriate.
Yeah.
So like if you're a sprinter and you're going to do your sprints, you're going to need to produce maximum power in sprint shoes. Do your top sets of plyometrics in sprint shoes. If you're doing like kind of warm up plyometrics stuff to improve elasticity and recoil within your feet and within the whole chain, do some of that stuff barefooted. But at the same time, like anything that's a maximum effort set, like you're probably going to be limited slightly in terms of the amount of power you can exert if you go barefoot compared to if you wore the right shoes. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the thing about, so the comment you made earlier about the weightlifting shoes, the wide toe box weightlifting shoes, like talking about the other sports and how obviously having that tighter, more restricted shoe is beneficial in those sports. I'm really intrigued as to see what's going to happen with those because you already had, because the way in which Olympic lifting shoes are designed gives you like a really wide platform, sole anyway, right? You've got that wide platform to benefit you in terms of stability. Having that narrow toe box probably allows you to exert more power. I don't really know whether there's going to be any true benefit to designing a wide toe box version. I think it buys into the whole marketing thing of
I mean, there's already been one world record set in the barefoot ones, but that was just by an exceptional athlete. So
is that by
Hampton Morris?
Okay.
Set a junior and senior world record in the clean and jerk, 61 kilos at 176 kilos clean and jerk at 61, which is pretty nuts. But then Olivia Reeves doesn't wear barefoot shoes, also American weightlifter, same system, about the same age as Hampton. Yeah. Also got junior world records, clean and jerk, snatch and total. Probably going to get gold at the Olympics. Doesn't wear barefoot shoes. So, like you say, I think the benefit there is like distinctly minimal. Because like I say, when you're a weightlifter, you only need to wear weightlifting shoes when you weightlift. And so if the rest of your life is spent in normal shoes, you're probably going to have a problem. If the rest of your life is spent in slightly more barefoot shoes or in a way that allows your foot to move properly, then it's not going to affect your weightlifting. It's not going to affect the training there. No. Because those shoes are designed for maximum stability and maximum force production. Yeah. They're not flexible. No. In a way that barefoot shoes are flexible, and they're flexible on purpose. So just having the wider toe box, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
No.
Maybe for squatting. But even then, I would suggest that the wide platform of the weightlifting shoes and the heel raise is going to do enough.
Yeah.
Who knows? Be interesting to see.
In summary, should we just summarize? Because I feel like we've kind of touched everything that we can really go into on that topic. Barefoot shoes, wear them throughout the day.
Yeah.
Build up to it slowly, because of the fact your foot's not going to be used to it at first if you spend your entire life wearing shoes that are restrictive and too supportive and too cushioned. Your feet will just get sore and you'll overload them.
Maybe do like one day on barefoot, one day off, one day on, or even like a couple of hours barefoot and go back to your normal shoes and just, like you say, ease yourself in rather than just jumping straight.
Because of the colourway, you need to buy yourself matching outfits, according to Matt.
Yep.
Because otherwise you'll walk around looking like a weirdo.
I mean, bright teal with like anything other than bright teal.
I mean, I still look like a weirdo, and it still winds Rach up. But it's easy to see me in the gym. Yeah, which is a benefit, I guess.
Yeah, I also wear a lot of, is it crew socks with like the high come up to your like calves and stuff. They don't look great with barefoot shoes.
I'm still trying to find a sock that does look good with barefoot shoes, though. I feel like...
I mean, just like ankle socks are good.
You think?
Yeah, ankle socks are great. They're fine with barefoot shoes. They're non-offensive.
I feel like ankle socks with barefoot shoes and like a long running trouser looks all right. I feel like just barefoot shoes just look weird. And it just needs to be accepted. You're not going to necessarily be able to style out a barefoot shoe at any point. But...
See-through.
See-through barefoot shoes?
Completely see-through. So it just looks like you're walking
barefoot.
You
are actually barefoot?
Yeah.
Nice. I mean...
Solved it.
Nice. Maybe just...
You just look like a hippie.
Change the world so that people don't walk on pavements anymore. People just go back to walking in grassy fields with no risk of stepping on glass.
Rewild the pavements.
Yeah, rewild the world. We'll just wait until the apocalypse hits, and then everyone can just walk around barefoot at all times.
But then there'll just be like syringes and glass in the grass. Which is probably worse because you can't see them.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
I don't know. I don't know where you live.
Well-trimmed pavements. That's what we need.
Well-trimmed pavements. Okay. To avoid hiding paraphernalia.
Yeah.
Okay. So live in barefoot shoes.
Yeah.
Probably perform in the right footwear for whatever sport you're participating in.
Although,
if you're training.
Slight caveat to that second point. If you're lifting in the gym, deadlifts, squats, other things like that, please don't wear running shoes. Because
that's
it's
not
like
appropriate. That's not appropriate to the sport.
Yeah, but it's not appropriate to the sport, but I just want to put it out there because everyone seems to do it and no one seems to see a problem with it.
Just start wearing Vans.
It's like the opposite.
Isn't that right, Sam?
But Vans are better.
Vans are better than just standard running trainers. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
so live in barefoot shoes, perform in the appropriate footwear for your sport, which does not mean running shoes for squatting.
Yeah.
Train in shoes that allow you to get what you want from your session. So if you're trying to maximize strength or power, train in shoes that are appropriate to the discipline you're doing. If you're trying to improve mobility, stability, coordination, balance, and develop a little bit of strength and power, then you can start wearing barefoot shoes to train.
If you're gonna run in running shoes. You don't have to run in barefoot shoes.
But you can run in
barefoot shoes.
Like my recommendation on the running side of things is like, if you're going to run in barefoot shoes, like think about it from the perspective of like, am I trying to improve coordination? Am I trying to improve running form? Or am I trying to maximize
distance?
Well, distance, power endurance, or speed endurance, or what have you. If I'm looking at maximizing the performance element, then I don't want to wear a shoe that's going to limit the amount to which I can push.
Yeah. If I hate myself and I hate my calves, then wear barefoot shoes.
Oh my god! The first time I went running in barefoot shoes, I was like, "Yeah, I run 10k all the time. Like, just go out in a pair of barefoot shoes, run 10k." I couldn't walk for like 2 weeks. It was awful, and it's that whole thing of like just not understanding the amount of additional pressure it was going to put on all the connective tissue that surrounded my calf. As much as it's like the additional pressure on the calf itself, it's like just my Achilles tendon did not like me
at all.
Yeah, at all. It was awful.
Yeah.
Right. I hope that was useful to people.
I hope we didn't go off on too many tangents.
I mean, we definitely went on too many tangents. I think we're both demonstrating the whole hamster wheel thing, situation. But yeah, hope you enjoyed it. Look forward to chatting next week.
Yeah, see you next week. Bye-bye.